just the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more to this, and it doesn't prevent her from cheating on you. It doesn't prevent her from doing anything, taking you through the family court. What happens is you bring everything that she desires. You bring the six sixes. She's still going to get bored. She's going to get bored. She wants to seek excitement. This is when we talk about the mythical Chad and Tyrone. She wants to seek that out because she knows there's excitement there. She knows there's danger. She knows he's a dangerous individual. Many times it's the beauty and the beast syndrome. They want to be able to be with dangerous men in order to maybe change that man, all right, from danger. She wants that excitement to be able to shift and change that individual. It's a project for her. Okay, now, much of what you see in this drama, this chaos, this dysfunction, many times, especially if you're in a work environment, many times these women they may be older women or women that no longer have influence over you sexually. So you see in the work environment, there's drama there. Typically, you're not sexually related to these individuals, so they have to find some other way to control you. Now, if you're not simping for them, if you're not looking at them, if you're not sexually harassing them or whatever they come up with when they're at work, if you're not doing any of that, they have trouble trying to influence you. Okay, you're playing it cool. You may be in a marriage and you may not have the same sexual feelings for that individual, for that woman, your wife, as you did at the beginning. Some things have worn out, and that's natural. You don't have the same sexual approach for them at year 10 as you did at year 1. Now, when this woman has no power, no influence over you sexually, she has to use this chaos to reel you back in. She has to use drama to keep you on your heels. This could be said if she does have sexual influence over you, all right, and she knows that you need that peace leave, and you've made some sort of deal with her in the state to make her the purveyor of your peace leave. That's the only person you can get peace leave from because you went to the state for that. The reality is when women age, they have to use some sort of influence, some sort of drama to keep you on your heels. And they've said, I'm going to quote Stefan Molyneux here. He says, women are born rich and quickly go broke. Men are the opposite. We're born broke, and then at some point, if we have status, we have that status to elevate us, we can get rich. But women have the opposite, and this is what happens in marriage. This is what happens in relationships that go long term. This is what happens when women age out. They have to use drama and chaos in order to control you because they can no longer influence you sexually. They have to use this to gain control. Okay? So now, when there is no sexual control, all right, what they do is they start grasping at straws or using straw man arguments in order to regain that control. This is when you see them, you get into a discussion with them, and I've done plenty of videos to talk about all of these things, like do not argue with her, do not have discussions, just there's no point in arguing. Because what they try to do is get you in an argument about one thing, and then you say something in that argument that may be something that gets you in trouble, and then now they focus on that one when they got heavy evidence when then before they didn't have an argument. They just was trying to create dysfunction and chaos. Now you said something that's legit in that argument, and then they focus on that, and then you get stuck trying to weave yourself out of the hole that you dug, all right, with the real legit thing in the argument. This is another reason why they create an argument. All right, they want to find and force you to say things that they can use later against you. Now, the family court and all of the government states programs that sponsor them is their backup plan. Should it not work out for you? Should this chaos and control, all right, this chaos and dysfunction not work well for you and work well for her, she still has the state to fall on. She has the family court to fall on if, say, for instance, the control is used and she can't regain it, all right, which just happens in marriage. She tries to get control. You're 45, 50 years old. You don't care about her or her peace leave. You and her peace leave can walk. And she creates some sort of chaos and dysfunction. She knows that if she can't regain control of that relationship, she no longer has power or influence over you. She can threaten you. She can use the family court to get that from you, get whatever that is from you. Now, many times we talk about this. Many times we talk about this. And I put up something on social media about the boxer Shane Mosley. He used to go by Sugar Shane Mosley, and what he lost to his ex-wife in their divorce agreement. They call it a divorce agreement. I'm sure he wasn't agreeable to any of these things, and he lost because she was her manager in essence, or his manager. You know, half of the purse on these fights. She never stepped in the ring though, but he lost DVD, future payouts and all of this stuff, and he also lost 3 championship belts. Okay, 3 championship belts. That what marriage is. This is what a marriage and divorce is in the United States. These things can happen to you. Now, when I talk about this, we talk a lot about what women want to get from it, and a lot of times, even when they get that, they're not happy. They're not happy. The only thing that makes them happy is that they were able to extract something from you. The fact that they took something from you. That made them happy, but that's only temporarily. That's only temporarily. At some point, she will return back to whatever state, whatever mental state she is, and look at those 3 championship belts and go, it means nothing to me other than the fact that I was able to take it from him because I was vindictive. So yes, they do use the family court. Yes, they do put you on child support for $300 measly dollars a month. Now, what is $300 a month? $3,600 a year. I mean, some of you guys make above and beyond that, but a lot of times it still becomes a crippling effect on us because of the way they extract it from you. So they get $300 measly dollars a month. The fact that they get the $300 is not making them get through their day. It's not making their month easier. What it is they're controlling you. The controlling mechanism and the imbalance allows them to stay in power by putting these cases on you. Doesn't make them happier. Doesn't make them more satisfied, except the fact that they can create that drama and keep taking you back to court. Keep readjusting the child support payment. Keep putting you on contempt programs. Get your license suspended. All of this is the imbalance that I'm talking about. This is it. They'd rather have that chaos and dysfunction in their life, even though it's killing them. All right. In my situation, this stuff was actually killing my ex. Like by the day, it was actually putting a stranglehold on her emotionally, physically. But she still was doing it. It was like, I was like, you're actually almost dying out here, and you're still doing it. See, this is what they live off of. This is what they thrive off of. They can't take a perfect situation, or they can't take a situation that is off balance and make it perfect. They have to have chaos and drama.
Was the 4th Democratic debate, and it looks like people are kind of unhappy with the Democrats' performance. Now, there's a lot of general, I guess, more professional assessment where people are saying things like, Joe Biden had an interesting point and Warren did dodge that question. Let's be real. No standout performers. Actually, I'll say this. Yang did a pretty good job, but I don't think he did a good enough job to be a contender in 2020. Let's be real. There's so many reasons Trump is going to win, and I've got 2 stories from the past day or so showing this. We don't need to look at the weak Democratic field to know this, and it's a bummer. I do really like Tulsi Gabbard. I gotta admit, I give her a 6 out of 10 in terms of performance. Like, she hit some good points when she last night during the debate she called out CNN and the New York Times for their smear job on her and other veterans who want to end these wars, and that was fantastic. Standout moment. But I do think some of her responses were a bit too generic, not personable or charismatic enough. Andrew Yang did a really, really good job, in my opinion. He did the best job. He had really great answers, and everybody else was just, let's be real, it was all so generic. And this is one of the things I brought up before about Tulsi's performance. I think one of the things you see Bernie do really well is he said, "I wrote the damn bill," and it's like, listen, man, that's very populist. That's very, Trump-esque. Speaking off the cuff like a regular person. Like, oh, tell me I wrote the damn bill. And then people were like, yeah, like we like that, right? So there's a lot of people who give you this very presidential, very canned, listen, we must discuss, no, none of that. We're beyond that at this point. We're in the age of, YouTube personalities and people who treat you like you're a friend sitting at a bar, and that's what we need. So take that advice, Democrats, moving forward. You really got to step it up if you want to be strong enough to go up against Trump. I don't think anybody will have that X factor. Let's be real. Check out this story from Daily Beast. All of these Democratic debates, especially this one, just leave me thinking Trump is going to win in 2020. None of them are top drawer presidential candidates. I don't say that with pleasure, quite the opposite. I say it with regret, but they aren't. You know what, man? I used to work in nonprofit fundraising, and as many of you may have noticed, I can talk a lot. So when I watch these debates and I see these answers, I'm like, dude, do you people not understand the basics of communication? Like how you actually try to explain an idea politely and succinctly. What was Elizabeth Warren thinking when they said, yes or no, will you raise taxes? And she goes, well, let's be clear here. I've always looked at the problem. I'm like, no, stop talking. Stop. Enough. We don't like that. Tell us the truth. And then Bernie comes out and says, very specifically, listen, premiums will be gone. Okay? These charges will disappear. Your taxes will go up, but your costs will go down. Thank you, Bernie. Your taxes will go up. Now, this is important because a lot of people don't have very high healthcare costs, or their healthcare is provided by their employer, in which case the company is fronting the healthcare, which means your costs will go up. Elizabeth Warren is playing this silly game, and Bernie isn't giving you the complete picture. But let's be real. Let's move on from this debate talk and stuff, because I want to talk about this. First of all, I did highlight this yesterday. I actually went into Moody's Analytics and showed that Trump might actually get nearly 400 electoral votes. This is Moody's Analytics. According to Newsweek, historically accurate election forecaster predicts Trump will win by even greater margin in 2020. He won by nearly, 70 electoral votes or more? They're saying he's going to win by more. Moody's said with average turnout, he'll do a little bit. With low turnout, he's going to do remarkably well, sweeping with 380 electoral votes. Democrats need a historical turnout in order to just barely get above 270. Now, here's what's really crazy. We're hearing from the New York Times that we are expecting historical voter turnout, but it is also going to include Trump's base. The largest group of people who support Trump, which I believe is white, working class, non-college educated. So tradespeople and rural Americans are expected to come out in big numbers too. Now, Moody's says, regardless, historical turnout means he wins. But historical turnout means Democrats win. But a historical average, Trump has that victory. And a low turnout, he has that victory. Let's read a little bit from this story, and guess what? You've got someone saying straight up the Democrats are poor performers, they don't stand out, they're not top drawer candidates, Trump's going to win. For that reason alone. I agree. You know what, man? When I point out, like I did the fundraising stuff, it's because I'm watching these debates thinking to myself, like, you were all so bad at this, okay? All of you. No one gets any credit. They're all terrible at being, at speaking. Now, I go back to that old George Bush interview, the senior, where he said, do we want an order or do we want a president? I can respect that. Well, let's be real, man. If you can't connect with voters, you can't win. And when you all look stodgy with canned responses, ain't nobody want to vote for that. Bernie Sanders, good job. You see why he was so popular? It's not about what their plan is. It's about they have a plan and they're saying it to you in a way that feels honest. It feels. I'm not saying they're correct. I'm saying it seems like they're really trying. I don't think Bernie's trying to mislead anybody. I think he's explaining it the way he sees it, and he's trying to be straightforward for the most part. I think Bernie's gone very heavy mainstream, so I'm like soured on him. But I really, really do respect that he was like, listen, your taxes will go up. Let's be real. I'm like, thank you. Thank you for just saying it. I really do respect it. If you came to me and said, listen, man, we got to raise taxes for these reasons, you're going to get a lot of people who are going to begrudgingly be like, okay, well, I appreciate you just being straight with me. And that's what Trump does. Or whether you believe he does or not. A lot of people, the left will say he's a liar every single time. But seriously, you watch Trump speak and you feel like he's not holding anything back. The Intercept wrote a story saying Trump is simultaneously the most deceptive as well as honest president we've ever had. He was doing an interview about a weapons deal with Saudi Arabia, and he says, "Look, they pay really well. We're going to do a great weapons deal for our weapons manufacturer. It's going to be great for the economy." And the anti-war left, their collective jaw just dropped. Like, he just said it, and they were shocked by that. That's the kind of attitude where people are like, "Okay, I disagree, but now I get it. Thank you for being honest." That's why Bernie and Trump are so popular. That's why they're populists. Everybody else, okay? Now, Tulsi did a pretty good job. Not perfect, I think. Some of her points were great. Yang did a fantastic job, but everybody's very, very candid. I digress. Let's read the story. Newsweek says, though President Donald Trump currently trails several leading Democratic candidates in early national polls, a research firm with a historically accurate model has him winning the 2020 election by a wide margin. The Moody's model has predicted presidential elections with success since 1980 until its first miss in 2016. Isn't that crazy? Like so many others, they predicted a Hillary Clinton win. In our post-mortem for the 2016 presidential election model, we determined that unexpected turnout patterns were one of the factors that contributed to the model's first incorrect election prediction, wrote Mark Zandi, Dan White, and Bernard Yerbos of Moody's Analytics. Yes, Trump awoke a sleeping majority. I shouldn't say sleeping majority, okay? That's the silent majority is what they say, but to be less hyperbolic, Trump found people in this country who had never voted before, areas that were gray, they weren't blue or red, and he turned them red. He activated them. I remember talking to somebody in California, and they were like, "There's an area in southeastern California that typically doesn't care to vote, and all of a sudden, everyone's wearing Trump hats," and that's what he did. And that's what changed the Republican Party and angered a lot of establishment Republicans. This new wave of former independent and moderate individuals who just came out for Trump, new Republicans. Some people said Trump reinvigorated and revived the Republican Party because they were shaky. They were where the Democrats are today. The Democrats need some kind of resurgence. They say the model did not account for the individual attributes of the candidates other than whether they belong to the incumbent political party. In other words, it assumed Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were generic candidates, which they were not. The research firm concluded, Hillary was disliked even by Democrats, and Trump was liked by non-party affiliated voters. Moody's uses three models to come up with its forecast. In each case, Trump gets at least 289 electoral college votes. The pocketbook measure focuses on three economic variables: the change in gas prices, the change in house prices, and changes in personal income. This is where Trump shines brightest, grabbing a whopping 351 electoral votes. Oh man, if that happens, there's going to be egg on the face of the Democrats. If voters were to vote primarily on the basis of their pocketbooks, the president would steamroll the competition. But wait, warning to Democrats. This is from yesterday afternoon. The economy points to a Trump win. End of story. Right? Are we done? Well, let's read a little bit more about the Moody's analysis. I did show this the other day, but let's see what they say. The stock market model relies on fewer economic variables than his pocketbook model, and is the least favorable model for Trump. But it still currently predicts a victory for the president. Meanwhile, the unemployment model predicts a more comfortable win for the president than the stock market model. Moody's Analytics may have missed on the previous election, but an economic analysis released in 2016 by the research firm forecasting Trump's presidency has largely come true. Amazing. Broadly, Mr. Trump's economic proposals will result in a more isolated U.S. economy. Cross-border trade and immigration will be significantly diminished, and with less trade and immigration, foreign direct investment will also be reduced. That's what they wrote in the report. The report also determined that Trump's plans would hit the middle class the hardest, while high-income earners would benefit the most from his tax breaks, including with a simplified overview. Even allowing for some variability in the accuracy of the economic modeling and underlying assumptions that drive the Trump analysis, four basic conclusions regarding the impact of Mr. Trump's economic proposals can be reached. They will result in a less global U.S. economy. They will lead to larger government deficits and more debt. They will largely benefit very high-income households, and they will result in a weaker U.S. economy with fewer jobs and higher unemployment. Well, that was wrong, though. What do you mean, Newsweek? That analysis was wrong. The authors of the report, however, warned that quantifying the real estate mogul's economic policies was complicated by their lack of specificity. They say the chief economist for Moody's Analytics also acknowledged that sometimes numbers can't control the outcome. It could be that this election may be so out of bounds with history that the models just aren't going to work. It could turn out things run on a dynamic you just can't model. Well, let's go back to the statement. First of all, the middle class did get a tax break. I believe they received around $2,000. We do have a less global U.S. economy to an extent, but it's hard to really quantify. You know, Trump's announced that China's going to be doing this big agricultural deal, $50 billion. So there have been some, pullbacks, but will it be forever? I don't know. And how you quantify that, man, you'd have to be able you'd have to track all of this stuff to give a definitive answer. And I can't necessarily give you that answer. They say will largely benefit high-income households. I believe, yes, a lot of people on the higher end got a big tax break, but largely benefit is not a bad thing. So let me ask this. I mean, just because the wealthy are doing well doesn't mean the poor are doing worse. The middle class got a tax break too. Congratulations. Maybe the higher income earners got more cash out of it. Sure. Is that a bad thing? I mean, if you're jealous and you think the rich should be paying more in taxes, I don't see that as an actual problem. Let me put it this way. I don't care how much money Jeff Bezos has. I literally don't. It means nothing to me. I'm not going to sit here and complain he has too much and it should be taken away. That doesn't make any sense. If you want to talk about taxing the wealthy to pay for programs for everybody else, that's different. It's not about Bezos. I'm listening. But the idea that simply because high-income earners are doing well, everyone is doing worse, makes no sense. Everybody is getting got a tax break from this. So you can be upset and think Trump is helping his rich buddies. Fine. But I guess you can argue that the deficit has gone up, and that is a bad thing. Well, for complicated reasons, like first and foremost, inflationary reasons. But most people don't even understand how the national debt works and how it impacts us, and most people don't seem to care. And they say it'll result in a weaker U.S. economy. We have we just had another record stock market and record low unemployment. So sorry, that's not the case. When we turn over here to Politico, the other day we can see the economy points to a Trump win, man. So look, you know what, man? The Democrats have spent so much time spinning in circles screeching about the orange man. They've done nothing to propose anything. But I'll tell you why they do it. You've heard me say it before. Trump's winning. Well, let's be real, man. The reason they do Ukraine Gate, the reason they do Russia Gate is because Trump is winning. And they go up on that debate stage, and they all say the same thing, save Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang. And I was like, I want to pretend like I stood up in my bedroom, started clapping. Oh, let's be real. I was sitting in my bed playing some silly Tetris game on my phone, going like, yeah, you go, Tulsi. That's right. And eating ice cream or something. But Tulsi said, we have this partisan impeachment. She supports the inquiry. I think that's respectable. I disagree. But at least she's saying we can't be divisive. And I really do feel, I gotta be honest, the only reason she supported impeachment is because the Democrats want it. The Democrats are polled, they overwhelmingly want impeachment, and that's why I think she flipped on it. Could you imagine if Tulsi wanted to stand out and she said, I do not support this impeachment inquiry? They would have went to her first and said, out of everyone on the stage, you're the only one and a member of the House not supporting this. And she could have said straight up, listen, for years we have been told over and over again, there's scandal after scandal after scandal. Look, Russiagate didn't turn out. It turned out to be a big nothing burger. You want to argue if Trump obstructed, we've got a problem. A lot of people don't care. They didn't care about Russiagate. And then when Russiagate turned out to be nothing, now you're going after the minutia of the investigation. We can argue that Trump shouldn't have done it. Fine. But now the Ukraine Gate thing. This is a complicated, divisive, partisan issue that is not going to win us 2020. Let's be real. I know you don't like Trump. I know you want that emotional vindication. This is not how you get it. You get it by saying, listen, here are the problems not being solved. Here are the issues that he has not fulfilled his promise towards. And here's what I'm going to do to fix these problems and help make things better for you. But what do we get? We all just support impeachment. Well, at least Andrew Yang said, when we're talking about Trump, we're losing. And that I was like, bravo, Andrew Yang. Thank you. We don't need to just talk about the man and his character and who he is and what he says and that he's orange. I don't care. Look, man, this is WWE-style politics, and the Democrats don't know how to fight back. They don't know how to play the game, so Trump is in the Hall... I could be wrong about this, I'm pretty sure, though, he's in the WWE Hall of Fame. He knows how to go up in that ring and say, I am the greatest, the best, with the best proposals, and you will be no more. And then everyone claps and cheers, and then they wrestle, and, Trump hits somebody with a chair or whatever. People get rallied by that. Let me tell you a story. During Occupy Wall Street, I'll give you a perfect example of the Democrats and Trump. During Occupy Wall Street, there was this emergency that happened. I believe it was October 14th, 2011. I could be getting the date wrong. Where the city said they were going to shut down the protest, the occupation, because of sanitation issues. So in the wee hours of the morning, like 2,000 people showed up and cleaned everything. And the city backed down. With all these people standing around, a couple activists stood up on this elevated planter, because the Zuccotti goes downhill slightly. And so there's this planter, and one guy stands up and he says something like, mic check, and then everybody yells, and he goes, should we march? We have a lot of people, and then everyone just mutters and then turns around and ignores him. And then this woman yells mic check again, and then she screams, "We won!" or something like that, and everyone goes, "Rah!" and starts screaming back, and then she goes, "Now we march!" and then everyone goes, "Wah!" and screams, and they all start marching and going wild. That's called charisma. And I watched it that day, and I laughed because I knew exactly what was going on. The Democrats are up on stage going, listen, I think, Trump is really bad, okay? And we need to be real about this. And then Trump is sitting there with a grin on his face, all slick, going, look at these losers. Hey, guys, look at these losers. They got no idea what they're talking about. I got record low unemployment. I got a booming stock market. Things are better than ever, and I brought your jobs back. Now, who stands with me? And then everyone goes, "One!" with their arms in the air. You can, it reminds me also of I don't know if you watched the King of the Hill episode, where Bobby is trying to do comedy but nobody laughs. So Peggy says, you've got to tell people when to laugh. Seriously, that's why they have laugh tracks. And then Bobby tells a joke, and then she laughs, and then spins some things, and goes, "Wah, wah, wah," and then everyone laughs, because they're like, now I know when I'm supposed to laugh. If you don't have that, cue point, this is why we rally, this is the energy I bring you, you got nothing, man. And I'll say it for everyone across the board, Yang, Tulsi included, the Democrats don't have that rallying cry. They don't have the strength and the charisma behind them that Trump has. Trump goes up on stage, and he says big, bold things, and then people start clapping and cheering, and he looks and he winks at you, and he points at you, and then people go, "Oh," and they faint. Trump doesn't. You might not like him, the left doesn't like him, it doesn't matter. It matters that he has that star power. That's why he has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He's a celebrity. He knows how to play the game. At the end of the day, you can throw everything aside and take this to the bank with you. The economy is better than it's been in decades, and Trump has star power. That's outside of Moody's analytics and the opinions of the pundits. I'll leave it there. Stick around. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel, and I will see you all then. 'Was published by Forbes. Why Pakistan should be on every solo female traveler's bucket list. And there is so much wrong with that statement. Now, this got ratioed and sparked an outrage, mostly among moderates and conservatives, of course, saying, if it is on your bucket list, it will be the last thing on your list. You can see it was ratioed. For those that don't know the Twitter world, ratioed means out of 3,000 retweets, people sharing it, 7,000 people chimed in. So here's what happens. Forbes changed the name, changed the title. It's possible the title was different before, I don't know. The title is different from the tweet. It says, this popular solo female travel vlogger thinks Pakistan could be the world's #1 tourism destination. A very different statement. However, the point is still clear. This is not the first article that is trying to encourage women to travel the world alone into very dangerous places. Make no mistake. You can travel the world and be safe. Be fine. Many people do. It is not a guarantee you will be hurt. However, there are many terrifying realities to traveling the world, and you must be prepared. Take my word for it. Sit right here on this wall. You can't see it because of the way it's cropped. I have a certification from it's called, they call it heat training. I mean, the training is redundant because the T means training. But hostile environment and awareness training, or, people call it different things. But basically, I've witnessed revolutions. I've been in countries, I've been detained in creepy windowless police buildings. They're very serious and real dangers. I was in Morocco for a conference, and in the wee hours of the morning, heading back to the airport to catch my flight, the driver in this beat-up old car from the 70s was speeding, blowing every stoplight, And I said, I was like, hey man, as we're going to the airport, right? And he was like, yeah, sorry for speeding, basically. He said, if we stop, they kill us. The point was, where we were, when you stop at a red light, that's when they jump out from the sides of the streets with guns and maybe not kill you, but the guy was like, don't worry, we're going to be safe. And he would blow past all these lights. And for me, I'm just kind of like, hey, whatever, man. That's great, right? Because I understand the risks of traveling. Now, here's the thing. You can travel the world. I don't care who you are. If you want to travel the world, you go do it. This popular solo female traveler thinks Pakistan could be, hey, man, go to Pakistan, do your thing. She was apparently there for like 10 months. What I take issue with is this uninformed, the world is candy and rainbows, this view of the world where you can just go. Let me tell you something. I've got a bunch of stories pulled up that I'm probably not going to show. I probably won't show them. Women getting attacked with acid. You know about that story in Morocco? The bicyclist in Tajikistan? How many stories do we get where it's like, hey man, maybe you shouldn't do this? Now let's be real though. I also pulled up a bunch of stories about attacks in the US. Tourists who come here. The reality is, the world is dangerous. Naturally, first world countries and developed nations are less dangerous in many ways. They're still very dangerous areas. I mean, I think like Baltimore might be one of the most dangerous areas in the Western world. But you can go to the U.S., you go to the right place, you'll be okay. Imagine this. Imagine a tourist, solo female, decided to go check out the United States. Let's say she's from New Zealand. So she chooses Baltimore. You'd be like, look, man, you can come to the U.S., and it's a big place. So maybe you want to focus on states, because states are pretty big. There are a lot of places you can go to. You can go to Baltimore and be okay, right? Let's say they chose Chicago. And then inside Chicago, they said they wanted to go to, I'm not going to call out a specific Chicago neighborhood, because I don't want to get anybody mad. But let's say they chose a specific South Side territory where crime is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. You'd probably question why they were doing it. You'd also probably question if it was respectful to enter this conflicted territory, gang territory or otherwise. You'd probably advise them it was a bad idea. But for
You alright,
some reason,
Betty?
when it comes to these other countries, it's like you should totally
Hi, baby
go
girl.
into it. I'm going to levy some harsh criticism right now. Not to this woman. So this popular YouTuber. Her name is Eva Zubek. Hey, look, man. I am extremely impressed, and I respect your ability to travel the way you do. Check out her YouTube channel. It's actually really, really impressive, but I'm going to criticize her. She went to Aleppo. She went to Damascus. She's gone crossing the border throughout the Middle East, and I think that's so long as she knows what she's doing and she's keeping herself safe, tremendous respect. That's actually really, really impressive. I know a lot of people who travel the world and understand those risks. The issue I take is that I would never encourage someone to do the same things as me. Like I mentioned, I have this sheet on the wall. I have the wall of knickknacks behind me, right? One of them is a special training program I went through that, for me, growing up on the south side of Chicago, I felt I was kind of redundant. I thought it was funny. But boy, I'll tell you what, man. We go to this place. It was just a little bit north of New York City, like I think it was like Westchester or something. And it's kind of woodsy, and it's this big building. It was a rental. I don't think the company actually owns any of the property or anything. And a lot of the lessons they taught us, I was like, dude, I know. I'm from the south side of Chicago, man. You don't got to tell me how to, what a gunshot sounds like. But it's really funny. I've been in conflict zones where gunshots ring out, and I kid you not, these journalists will look around and go, those fireworks? And I tell that story all the time, but seriously, it happened twice. 2 different journalists I was working with in Ferguson. And my response is the same. Do you see people carrying fireworks? No. Do you see people carrying guns? Yes. Why would you assume it's fireworks? Now, I get it. Some people are just, dumb. But the point of that story is, even in a circumstance where you'd think it would be reasonably obvious people are shooting guns in random directions, people just, optimism bias. They want to believe it. So while I can respect and am absolutely impressed by this woman's ability to travel, I don't, and I'll say this too, I don't want to make it seem like she's overtly, directly being like, everybody go. It may be Forbes, creating this kind of more, go do it. Here's the thing, man. I will not take people with me into certain countries, into certain stories, period. I don't care who you are, what you do. If you don't know, we are not doing it. And I got 2 stories for you. First of all, I was in Egypt. Okay, while I was in Egypt, I'm gonna keep the details of the story light because it's sensitive. But it was a big story, and a young woman was gang assaulted, to say the least. I don't know why she went down to Tahrir Square by herself. And I understand Tahrir Square is very, very different from just traveling the world and going to cities. I'll tell you what, man, though. Going into Syria and Aleppo right now, well, things have improved. She went there several months ago. I think it's like, okay, if you're going to go now, fine. There have been, controlled areas, but things have toned down quite a bit. Still, if I plan a trip into a place like Syria or Aleppo, even today, I will not bring you with me. Period. The only people who are going to come with me are going to be people experience. So the first story is the Egypt one. And I had a female friend that I said, absolutely not. If you come here, you are on your own, and I will not be there with you. Period. And the reason for this is, it was dangerous. Very dangerous. We're talking about conflict, okay? It's urban conflict revolution. It's not the same as just going, I understand that. My point was, I cannot be responsible for your safety in a situation like this. They are greatly offended. And I stand firm, absolutely. There are so many places I would never bring a female, no matter what your experience is. But however, you can come on your own. I'm not telling you not to come, I'm just saying, for me, understanding the risks, I cannot absorb a risk that large in many of these countries. It's just a fact. When we did this training, you know what they had us go through? They had us go through a training where they didn't tell us what was going to happen. And I guess technically I'm not supposed to tell people what the training is because they want people to experience it randomly, but you know what? I'm going to tell you anyway. We were riding in SUVs, and they told us we were going to go somewhere, like, it was basically like, hey everybody, we're going to take a ride down to this building, we're going to check out, we're going to do this kind of training, and they told us one thing and did another on purpose. Because while we were driving, all of a sudden, we see a bunch of cars.
Ted Cruz felt that way about CNN? You don't think that George W. Bush did? You don't think that Carly Fiorina did when she was smoking Katie Couric and they were trying to say that she was this failed CEO at HP, but she understands economics that they don't? Of course they do, but for some reason they feel the need to sort of cloak it through politeness. Donald Trump just, no,
wrong.
You're wrong. Fake news, you suck. And I think that's refreshing to people because a lot of people have been streaming at the TV set going, why isn't someone just calling out on this?
Yeah.
The media, they're always telling us that Trump is a liar. But then you sort of contrast that with the fact that many Americans, I don't know if it's most Americans, but certainly a significant portion, they see him as a straight shooter. That's one of the major selling points. They see him as more authentic than most politicians. What do you think it is? I want to make my case here, so stay with me for a little bit. Let me set this up so you understand where I'm going.
Yeah.
Because this is going to upset likely everybody, and I'm okay with it, as long as you take this in its entirety, the context. I think he's a little from column A, a little from column B, okay? I think he's a little from column A, and that he's most definitely a bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. But a little from column B, in that I think he's much more authentic than the sort of trained, empty suit politicians.
Yeah.
And I think that column B matters more. And the way that you can tell, at least is my opinion, that he's more genuine is for the same reasons that a lot of people might hate him. You can identify the authenticity in Trump through the things that he disdains.
Yeah.
He can't hide the things that he hates.
He has no filter, it seems.
No, I think that's an important litmus test
Yeah.
here. People hate him because, he's just tweeting all the time. Look at all the things that he says. Well, that's why I don't think he would be able to hide and play the game.
Yeah, right.
Now, let's also go to something else. Like, let's throw into the mix assholery, okay?
Yeah.
Let me give you this. President Donald Trump can definitely come across, scratch that, he is an asshole.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Very unlikable at times.
But I think everyone kind of agrees that, at least he's our ass. That's what people think. At least he's... Because let's be honest here. What's the alternative at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Warren? Pete Buttigieg? Beto O'Rourke? I mean, think about the lesbian
kind of
with the
assholes.
dreadlocks that's getting Shane Gillis fired from SNL.
Yes.
And I want to be clear. I'm not saying that it's a good thing for people to be an a-hole.
Yeah.
There are plenty of people who aren't a-holes. Okay, that's the majority of America. Unfortunately, they don't run for president most of the time. But with the left, when you have the Pete Buttigiegs, the Elizabeth Warrens, even the Bernie Sanders it's assholery disguised as empathy.
Yes.
Right, and that's why I think people see him as authentic. Donald Trump, people might get mad at him because he could say something to the equivalent of, this isn't a direct quote, but I listen, I think there's American dreamers alive, you should stop being lazy. If you want to text the rich more, go screw yourself, okay? They already pay plenty. That's pretty much it.
Yeah,
but then you have someone like Pete Buttigieg who says that you should get with the times. I don't have the exact quote in front of me. I'm free flowing this a little bit. You should get with the times. If you're uncomfortable with the language that's being taken away from you, if you're uncomfortable with the government intruding into your life, basically I'm going to bully you into my point of view. And it's just assholery disguised as empathy.
Yeah, and I think that pisses a lot of people off because we don't think politicians have any genuine bones in their body. We know what they believe and what they're saying, and then they go out into the media and they say something that sounds much more pliable, right?
Yes.
Like it's much more easy to take, and you're like, that's not what you believe.
I think that's why so many people gravitate towards Trump is because he's kind of genuine. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, he's a real ass.
Right.
I can see it, and he's not trying to hide it.
Right. And people
Yeah.
all, like, we're all supposed to be offended, but everyone goes like, oh, when I talk about someone I'm pretty, like, pissed off about, like my neighbor, my neighbor who doesn't, keep his stuff on the other side of the fence. I probably feel similarly to how Trump feels about the New York Times.
Yes.
And so you can see yourself in that person, just like all great storytelling. It's about seeing yourself, seeing the facet of your character in somebody else. And I think this is important also to delineate what you just said too. Is politicians are trying to think about what they believe. I don't think Trump necessarily knows what he believes on every issue. You've seen him change in some issues, but
like
I
he's
think he
working it
knows
out.
what he hates.
Yeah, he does.
And he's very, very clear about that. And I don't mean he hates people. I mean ideas. I mean establishments. I mean institutions. And I think this is sort of what seems as kind of the Trump enigma, because this is something that we talk about a lot. A lot of people go, he's a compulsive liar, he's a bullshitter. They will say, I like that Trump says it like it is. And I think it's important to explore that because it's as though we're talking about the same person with two different conversations. I don't think that's the case. I don't think we're too far off here. I think people hate him for the same reason that people like him, and that he is a bullshit artist, okay? So it's weird, though, to people to say, well, he's also authentic.
Yeah.
Two different things. Let me explain to you. We're talking about what someone says, for example. He's a BS artist and that he's self-serving, Donald Trump. He can bend the truth, right, to maybe suit his own self-interest. That's different. I think it's important. That's different from the essence of a human being.
Yeah.
Who they are. And that's why Donald Trump is kind of a bullshitter, but they see him as authentic. Because they don't see him trying to disguise the things that he believes as empathy. So let's use Beto O'Rourke as an example, okay? Yeah. People think he's compassionate, Beto O'Rourke. People think that he's compassionate and that he cares. Now, when Beto O'Rourke is talking about a mandatory gun buyback, it's a confiscation. That's what he's talking about, okay? Let's be really clear about this. Beto O'Rourke disdains freedom. Now, I'm not attributing motive. When you're talking about someone who wants to forcibly remove guns from the American public, that is someone who disdains personal freedom, who disdains the Second Amendment, but he cloaks it as empathy and compassion. Donald Trump disdains the media, and he cloaks it as disdain for the media.